This is the Stubborn German podcast coming to you from the Stubborn German Brewing Company here in beautiful Waterloo, Illinois, which is just a hop, skip, and about 25 minutes away from the St. Louis region, right? I'm Kevin Oeste, joined as always by the proprietor of the Stubborn German Brewing Company, Mr. Chris Ryan. Chris?
Was ist los?
Los is gut.
Gut.
Yeah. And Mr. Jared Chasson, our producer.
Good evening.
And we have a very special guest here with us tonight, a local business lady who happens to own the V8 Speed and Resto shop and employs me.
I don't think I've ever been introduced like that.
My lovely wife, Miss Kelle Oeste.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Happy to be here.
Well, you've been referenced enough on this. We figure it's time to...
You've talked about me plenty, so I don't need to really say anything.
Right. Well, that didn't work, Chris.
That's the end of this show.
So, before we dive into those stories,
Yes.
if you're a frequent listener, you know that most of these episodes start off with the German word of the day, right?
And this one will as well, so...
It's a losing proposition for all who play.
It doesn't have to be. Doesn't have to be. Okay.
I'll be positive.
German word of the day for today is weltschmerz.
Oh, of course it is.
Weltschmerz.
Weltschmerz.
I think I know what it is.
Wow. Well,
You go first.
Weltschmerz.
I thought our guest goes first.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
What does weltschmerz mean?
Well, I've known you for 22 years, and I don't think I've heard you say this word. So I was trying to think of
Just
words
not out loud.
you've used a part of those words. I don't know. So I'm going to say it's a spread of something on a sandwich.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
Holy mackerel, because that's what I was thinking.
I was actually going to say deli meat. So, you know.
Okay. So is that both of your final answers? So a spread, like a...
I'm saying like a
condiment of some
mustard,
sort?
condiment,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
yes.
Condiment.
A smear of some sort.
Weltschmerz.
Noted. And Jared says
Deli
deli meat. Got it. And Kevin, what is your awesome answer
Now
to
I got to think of something else.
Weltschmerz? You really were going to say...
We threw him off.
I was going to say cheese spread.
Okay.
Wow.
I'm
That's
hungry
different.
now.
It's definitely food related,
Yeah,
I think.
Wow.
that's what I'm going to say.
There's only one way to find
cheese
out.
spread?
And that's
Yes.
to listen
Okay.
to the end of the episode.
Right. As weltschmerz as it might be.
Okay, I have all of the entries tabulated, and we'll see how correct everyone is at the end.
For the grand prize of nothing. Yeah.
You get nothing.
All right. So if you've heard this Stubborn German podcast before, you know that the proprietor is Chris Ron with his lovely wife Tammy, and they're a married couple that runs this business and ran a previous business together. And we've heard Chris and Tammy tell stories about how they worked together and got started and a whole bunch of that. And Chris drew the parallel that my wife Kelle and I kind of do the same thing, just without all the beer.
Yeah, I don't drink any. I like the
Well,
the Buffalo Trace bourbon cream. I can do that,
Okay.
but beer, no.
okay.
Well, it's that time of year also, I think, where you
Yeah,
get into
I get
that
into that, yeah.
bourbon cream.
There you go.
And, why don't we do, while we're talking about that, a quick check. What are you drinking tonight, Jared?
I am drinking the limited edition deer beer seasonal.
Oh,
2021
very good.
version.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's tasty.
It's way different than 20... No, it isn't.
I was gonna say, you probably wouldn't want to drink the 2018 at this
No.
point anyway.
No. I actually have the exact same thing, so I'm easy. Yep.
Nice.
Same thing.
Very good. And I'm dabbling in the bourbon shelf a little bit with what?
Yeah. You have the Bourbon of the Week, which this week just happens to be Castle and Keys Restoration Rye with a splash o ginger beer.
How fitting.
How's it tasting?
It's great.
Good.
No, I enjoy that.
Awesome.
I like to come here because Chris tells me what I drink.
That's right. What am I drinking here, Chris?
Let's play a new game.
What am I drinking?
What am I drinking? All right. So, typically we just kind of start firing away with questions for our guest.
Okay, what's your question?
I don't know. Jared's got one.
Fire away,
Well,
Jared.
I mean, I feel like we've heard a lot about Kelle, but
Yeah.
but what can you tell us about your business relationship with your husband, your personal relationship?
Oh.
What would you say it is you do here?
What is my purpose in life? Boy, have I heard that before. So my relationship with Kevin, obviously, we're married. We've known each other 22 years. Kevin created the idea of the business that we own and operate, and he has the production side of the business, and I tend to manage the restoration side of our business. So Kevin's skill set is best with, obviously, communications and our website and the television shows that he produces. He's excellent at being an MC on stage and interviewing people. He makes them very comfortable with that. My side is behind the scenes, I do all the stuff that keeps me away from the stage. So like tonight, I'm kind of nervous just being here because normally I don't have to do the communication because Kevin does, and he does it so well. So my position started as obviously the business ownership and the paperwork side of things, but my fun side of the business is actually being a fabricator or mechanic or doing body work or anything that I can do hands-on. I'm much more hands-on to the cars.
Cool.
As you can be.
As I can be. Now my job is much more in the office. But today I got some tools in the mail so that I can go work on a car. I'm so excited.
Nice. What'd you get?
I got a reversible cutoff wheel, an extended 4-inch cutoff wheel, and I got some pneumatic hammer bits on them, the wedge and the head and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then I got they're spot weld busting tools. So you put them between the panels and bust the welds apart.
Gotcha.
I got those in the mail today.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I used to love playing with the air hammer.
Exactly.
I mean, when we're ready to move some metal and move some things.
Yeah, you can tear something up real fast.
Oh yeah, you can break stuff very easily too. But that's the I'm tired of being nice.
Yes.
Let's get this out and do it.
That's me. I'm all about the get it done. There's a joke around the shop of just do something. I don't like just standing there talking about it and analyzing it. I'm like, just give me that air hammer and
let's go.
Well, applying experience as well, not just recklessly.
No, I'm not reckless about it, but I just would rather do it than talk about it.
Well, I think your experience has been interesting, and both of us, because we really didn't plan where we're at. We just kind of hung with it and learned tricks along the way to improve. But today, you are legitimately running a good-sized small business with how many people we even work?
We employ 22 people.
22?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Do
we're
you
working.
even know all their names?
Yes.
Of course I
Go down the list. Come on.
And their birthdays and their anniversaries
Holy
are on the
cow.
calendar, and we really, it's that our
awesome.
employees are definitely the most important part of our business.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And that was the point of your recent Motor Trend interview, which you can jump on motortrend.com, find the latest videos tab, and see an interview of you expounding your philosophy of what's important in the business.
Yeah, we've been in business 18 years, and over the course of that 18 years, my main focus in the beginning was to build the very best car ever. I wanted it to be perfect.
Yeah.
And that led to a lot of trouble, honestly, because we had customers who you think in our automotive industry, you think the perfect car is maybe a Riddler winner, right? Or an America's Best Roadster or something, so the upper echelon of millions of dollars, thousands of hours, time and spent into these cars.
Yeah.
The Riddler's like the Academy Award of car shows.
Gotcha.
So you might have a customer who says, I want a nice car, but that doesn't mean he wants to spend
doesn't wanna
$500,000, right?
Yeah.
So here I am with, a pick that you would use in the dental office, like cleaning some little thing, and they're like, dude, just wipe it off, right? So when you get into that, doing it over too much, so I had to back up a little bit and be like, okay, what does the customer want? So we had to start putting decisions to the customer and saying, do you want it this way or this way? We have our standard, which is really sometimes hard to stick with, based on customers' budgets or customers' expectations. But sometimes I just say, no, we want it. We have to do it this way because our name is on
our name's not going to go on something that goes out that isn't at least up to whatever standard you set. Yeah.
For example, Chris doesn't brew Coors Light.
Exactly. I mean, you may have a recipe and you're like, no, I'm not going to do that. So you don't even make it, right?
Well, somebody's already doing that, and it's
And they do a very good job.
Right. For that market, that's fine. And we tell people that it's okay if you don't necessarily want the detail level and quality that we offer. There's somebody else who can help you.
Right. So that was my trouble in the beginning, was trying to build the best car. Then as time went on, I started realizing that it's, the happy customer is very important. Yeah. And now, and kind of a little bit of it I blame is COVID happening. When COVID hit our shop, I realized that there is zero I can do about China or Kentucky or even St. Louis.
Right.
I can't, right? All I could do was take care of the 22 people that worked in our shop. And if I could take care of them, then that meant they could go home and take care of their 22. So that changed my philosophy significantly and made me focus more on taking care of the employees, making sure that they're happy, healthy, have the right tools, have the right training, and that will create the best car, the happy customer, the happy employees, and all those things, and the better growing business.
Set them up for success. It's you're watering the flower.
Right. So that has been over the last couple of years, increasingly every day. I'm reading books and I'm getting training and I'm doing all these things and communicating with my employees more to try to make the world a better place.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, the nice thing is she reads the book and then tells me about it on the way in to work, and then I don't have to read it, but I get the general idea. But I think it's unique in our industry of motorsports and building cars, because, if you say restoration shop or hot rod shop, everybody gets this image in their mind of, this kind of dirty place that, has some grumpy guy there and, sparks flying and all that kind of stuff. And we certainly have the sparks flying, but the mission has been to build a culture in an environment that is different from that kind of job.
Sure.
It's not a job. It's a place where you spend a whole ton of time. We're able to create and make something cool. And, Kelly's really focused on doing that, and it's definitely working, because anybody who comes into the shop, they walk around and they can see in 5 minutes that the people that are there want to be there. They're looking after each other. They're not arguing with each other. They're not sabotaging each other. Or, there's not practical jokes and all kinds of stuff going on. Everybody's kind of focused on the common goal, and that's a huge thing. And that was something that, I think I kind of had in the back of my mind, like, that would be cool, but you made that happen.
Well, I think we all made that happen. I think, my thought process, but having the right crew is the most important part. And my philosophy about hiring is to hire people who have the right attitude and then train them that skill set. And that's, you were mentioning the stereotypical image of a shop, and that's something I got to tell parents. If your kid wants to work on cars today, I wouldn't shun them away from that career at all.
Right.
It is the potential of tremendous financial advantage, great benefits. It's not it's not a gross, dirty environment, at least in our shop and many other shops I know.
Yeah, for sure.
And people are worried about the environmental side of things with the dust and things like that. There are new pieces of equipment out that are taking care of those things. You can wear rubber gloves. You don't have to get all those chemicals. There's respirators provided at our shop, so you don't have to inhale all those things either. It's not what it was 20, 30 years ago.
Right. And you will have a job, if that's just what you want. You will have income for the rest of your life as long as you want to keep doing that. If you're trained to work on a car well, I don't know what they'll look like in 20 or 30 years. We're going to be flying by then. I'm not really sure.
They keep promising that.
I know
that.
Where is my Jetson Mobile?
I know, right?
I watched that when I was a kid, and I had such high hopes I would still be flying.
I thought the year 2000 was really going to be it, but...
I'm 96 miles an hour, still not flying, and I just want to go above and go.
I know. So, but yeah, people have to get from point A to point B, and they always will have to do that.
Yes.
And someone's going to have to work on whatever that is,
right,
that makes them do that. Yep.
Right. Mm-hmm. And today in 2021, we are still working on cars from 1928.
Yeah.
So, and I have not lost hope.
Do you guys find with the emergence of hybrid and electric cars, I know a lot of your stuff is classic car restorations and things, but I know there's a whole genre of people that take an old Mustang and put a modern, electric system in it. Do you guys ever have to deal with that? Do that? Customer come in and say, here's what I want?
So mostly what we focus on is the original 69 Mustang, looking original, on the outside, and then we do all the performance modifications on the bottom side. So we're installing something like a 2020 or 21, 22 new Mustang engine or transmission in a 1969 Mustang.
Right.
So we've been doing that as long as we've been in business. The electric side of things it's something we're considering.
It's still pretty new.
I understand its potential and value as a commuter car, everyday driver. I get it, especially in large cities and all those kind of things where that is supported. I'm not a fan of the batteries and all that.
Right.
And recently I learned of other health issues for people who do work on those cars, so that makes me a little nervous. When we were at SEMA, we all learned about the hydrogen-powered truck, and that is where we're all like, okay, I'll build one of those. Let's figure that out. Yeah.
So essentially what the deal is there is that we get, in fact, just over the weekend, we have another customer who asked us about converting his 67 Pontiac to run electric. We get these requests. Right now, there's not an easy way to do that. It takes a lot of engineering, a lot of fabrication, a lot of time and money.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, you have an electric 67 GTO that a big part of what you like about that car is gone, which is the sound and the smell and the feel and
the way it drives,
the vibrations and all that stuff. But at this SEMA trade show, a gentleman from Michigan came out with a 1948 Chevy pickup truck, similar to Kelly's 54 that she drives, but it has a modern supercharged V8 that ran on compressed hydrogen gas.
Sweet.
Right. So here's the, why compress hydrogen gas? Well, apparently hydrogen's got 3 times the power of gasoline when it burns. And in California and in New Jersey, there are compressed hydrogen stations for municipal vehicles. Like some of their buses run on this stuff. And so now you got something that still makes the noise. It's still a V8 internal combustion engine that our customers know and love, but it makes 0 tailpipe emissions.
Wow.
And it still makes all the power. So that, I think, is intriguing. And we're starting to get people asking us. The guy that came up with it worked with Bosch and Phillips Petroleum and wants to do kits, retrofit kits. So I think that's in our future at some point.
So it's almost like converting a vehicle to run on like LP or something similar-ish to that.
And in the 80s, that was kind of a thing to do the natural gas conversions.
Right.
The problem with the natural is that it still burns dirty.
Okay.
It's a black soot.
Yeah.
And it has about a quarter of the power of gasoline.
Gotcha.
So
you're burning a lot more of it to do the same work.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't consider it high performance.
Yeah.
But this would. So
cool.
To answer your question a little bit differently, so yes, she's very in tune with the different trends and technology and the way things are going. And also, more so on the business side, at that trade show, you spent the whole week in seminars, right? And doing
I went to a lot
days.
of classes, and most of them were about employees and hiring and managing, and some of it was like we sent a couple technicians out there too, and they took a class on electric vehicles and what to expect in the future and working on them and those kind of things. The other things I did was I just met with professional other shop owners that I know and respect and asked them specific technical questions that we are dealing with in the shop. For example, we do a ton of metal repair, but we have a Corvette that needs fiberglass repair.
Right.
So in my metal repair side, I know that there are certain parts companies that I will purchase from and some I will not. So I went to them and I'm like, all right, you do fiberglass repair. Who do I buy from? Who do I not? What product, what chemical works and doesn't? And so it was a huge learning week for me. Yeah.
Nice. So, Kelly, how do you handle, you've got one of your crew members who's constantly going out of town. He comes weeks between coming into the office. How do you handle an
his
employee like that?
His attendance is terrible.
Yep.
And you know what? It's really hard as a boss to not play favorites to the guy you're married to, right?
Yeah.
Jesus.
If you play what? This is overcompensation then.
Right. So you know what happens?
But not in the compensation standpoint.
So it's really bad because what happens is Kevin will be really, really tired, and then I'll just fire off like 20 questions. Did you do this? Did you do that? Now that you're home, is this done? How about this? Are we going to get this done? Did you hear from that guy? And he's like, I just got here. I'm like, well, you've been gone for a week. I got to ask you all these questions. Well, how was I supposed to do it when I was gone for a week? I'm like, I don't know. You had time at the airport, right?
Can't you answer some emails? Come on.
Yeah, I kind of deduced that to having a couple giant side hustles that actually help our business.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. What I always encourage Kevin to do what he loves doing and what he's doing the best at, and let the other stuff be done by someone else who's, I can weld, I can wrench, I can do body work. I can help any guy in our entire shop. And I love doing it, but I hired guys who are way better at it than I am. And that's what Kevin needs to do. He needs to do what he loves and do what he's best at and what brings him the most joy, and then delegate the rest.
Oh, I thought you were going to say he needs to hire people that are way better than him.
At certain things, yes.
Yeah, for sure. That's always a good thing.
Yeah. That's growth right there, man.
That's right.
Yeah. But the other aspect is that Kelly's local. Grew up right here in Waterloo, right over by there, down the road to Peace.
Right over by there.
That's right. Nice. Oh, by the way, little side note. This podcast got a little bit of a review by I forgot the guys who did it.
The other podcast that talked about us, that was
as Chris is trying to recall the name because that was out of left field.
Atlas.
Yeah,
it was.
Atlas, it was an Atlas Health thing.
Yeah.
And and it was nice of them to do that. They spoke very highly of your beer.
I know, it was very cool. I listened to the whole thing, and it was they did a great job.
Yeah,
they played a little polka in between little segments and stuff. It was awesome.
And that was like an unboxing of the Stubborn German experience.
Yeah, it was.
They really went through the whole thing.
I was super nervous because I just stumbled upon it. Just happened to find it on YouTube. I don't even know what I was searching, and I think I was trying to find our podcast.
Yeah.
And then this one came up. Is our podcast on YouTube?
I don't think so.
It can be if you want.
It will be.
Put it up there.
Yeah, that'd be great. No, we already have one on there. It's by Atlas, and they did a great job. So
it was pretty cool. Yeah, I listened to the whole thing, and they were very complimentary of you guys.
I know.
And,
I was
the
just
whole
waiting
setup.
the whole time for oh my God, they're gonna hate this beer, or they're gonna
No, there was all positive.
It was cool.
But between them and a couple other bits of feedback that we got, and where I was going with this is, if you're listening to this and you're not local, you don't know where we are. We're not near Chicago.
Right.
No, we're
and
not.
I'm to blame for that
Yeah.
because I grew up in that area.
It's the
and
accent.
I've done a lot of, so I might sound like that a little bit sometimes over by there. And talk about a good Portillo's beef sandwich. So I need to clarify that we are in Illinois, but we're not right next to Chicago. We're down south.
Not even close to Chicago.
No, not at all.
In many ways.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Distance and a bunch of other
Multiple
things.
ways. Yeah.
so when I said Kelly grew up right over by there, I don't want people to think that it was like Melrose Park, or some.
Yeah, no,
some-
I grew up on a farm about 4.5 miles southeast of
in the country,
of Waterloo.
not in town.
Not in town. Yeah, we were talking before the podcast about taking your kids to sporting events, and my dad always said, "That's too far to drive. We're not. You can't participate. You have work to do. Stay home on the farm and get something done."
And see now, look,
It's
everything
a huge
about
payoff.
tools and work ethic and all that.
Yeah, I didn't know it, but my dad was a phenomenal manager. I
Yeah.
had no idea about that until I started managing, and I'm like, oh, I figured out where I learned this from. And his work ethic. He is 80, and he will outwork every one of us. Anybody I know.
Wow.
Still today, it's like
This is
he
true.
will just muster the energy from I don't know where. He'll be exhausted later, but he will outwork everybody.
Wow.
Yeah, super strong, super capable. I think he went to 7th or 8th grade in school, but he should have been an engineer. He's brilliant at just figuring out how things work and fixing things. He's so smart.
That's awesome.
Well, it's kind of funny you talk about his management skills, right? So it was only later on in life that you realized one of his tactics. So Kelly is generally fairly high energy for the most part, and as a kid was like, an electron spinning
I was
around.
bad.
And her dad,
Unmedicated, super bad.
yeah, her dad used to take like a 5-gallon bucket of bolts and say, "Okay, today I need you to sort all these." And she'd go through and
It
sort
was
them all.
genius.
And he kept
Oh
you
my
busy
God.
For an
Right.
evening.
Yeah.
She thought it was because he needed these bolts sorted.
Well,
And in
yeah,
his
why else
mind,
would-
it's like
Sit
just
over there and be quiet.
Right.
So he would do all kinds of things, and it was helpful to the farm. He worked as a diesel mechanic. He would come home with whatever in his pockets, and he'd put them in a coffee can, and then once in a while, he would dump out the coffee can, and I would sort it amongst everything. I mean, there are 5-gallon buckets of 1/4-inch, half-inch long bolts at his farm now. It's crazy. But, I mean, that was a way to keep me occupied. The other way was we would take something down very carefully, board by board. Don't break a nail. Don't break a board. Don't, mess it up in any way. And then I would set up sawhorses, and me and my grandpa, who would also need to be occupied, we would listen to classical country music, and we would hammer every nail out of the board and pull it with crowbars, and then we would eventually sit under a shade tree with our bucket of nails and an anvil and straighten our nails.
Wow. Straighten the nails.
Straighten the nails.
Genius parenting, man.
Burn the wood.
Yeah. Genius parenting right there. I'm telling you.
Wow.
For a kid with ADHD and, I don't know, OCD and all the other things that just...
One of those Ds.
Yeah.
super hyper on sugar, and he figured out ways to occupy my time.
That's awesome.
It was great. Yeah.
So do you find, I know your shop, I'm sure, has a pretty big reach, not just local, but being a local gal, does that factor into your work at all, or do you get, recognition from being around here?
No, Kevin gets the recognition in our company, 100%.
All right. I can see that.
Which is okay. I mean, he's
It's all
definitely...
because of this podcast.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, of course.
He's the face and the voice in
Yeah.
so many things in the automotive industry. So definitely when you drop the Oeste name, it's Kevin.
Yeah.
Everybody recognizes Kevin. And that's totally the way I want it. I don't need or want that.
That's the way he
there
wants
she
it,
is,
too,
you know.
I think.
He is the Oeste with the most
Yes.
from coast to coast.
From coast to coast.
Right.
But our
That's
shop is known worldwide. We have
Yeah,
7 cars
right.
in the shop, or from 7 different countries in the shop right now.
Wow.
And we became worldwide several years ago, and primarily because of Kevin's YouTube videos and the television show Outreach.
Yeah. The YouTube video, one of them taught me how to weld, by the way.
Awesome!
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Oh,
Yep.
fantastic. So
Sorry.
that worldwide aspect is still even recognized by Kevin, and the cars that we build.
There's 2 points I want to make. One, your global presence is far stronger than you're leading on.
Well, if it is, I don't know anything about it.
Well, what was interesting this year in particular at that, again, we just came from the SEMA trade show, so that's fresh on the mind, but I was hired to work there and do my thing, but your whole experience was completely independent of me.
Yes.
It's never been, oh, you're married to that guy.
No.
It's always been, you run that shop.
Right.
And you got your total own identity and your own thing, which is fantastic. When we talk about the international customers, our very first one was a gentleman from Dubai. And he called me on the phone one day, and this is way back before we had our place in Redbud. We're actually still working on Kelly's dad's farm, is where the shop started. And he was, kind of tough to understand. He was a native from over there, Middle Easterner, and he kept just saying, I have all the parts. I have all the parts. And we're like, okay. And it was funny because we ended up doing a very high-end car for this guy, and we met him in person at the SEMA trade show in Vegas. He flew in to go to that show.
And handed you the parts?
No.
Well,
No.
but you need to tell him the story of how that went down when you first met.
Well, he
Solomon.
was saying that he had all the parts.
Yeah.
So I started, it was a 69 Camaro. That's,
Okay.
for whatever reason, I am extremely familiar with all the parts on a 69 Camaro.
Sure.
And so I started asking him specific part questions. And he would say, no, I don't have that. But I have all the parts. I'm like, okay, what about this? Do you have that? No, but I have all the parts.
and not only that, in the beginning, she would ask him a question, and he would respond to me.
Yes.
He would turn and
he
look at
wouldn't
me.
look at me in the eye.
That's so funny.
But
Yeah.
we didn't know if it was cultural or
Right.
because I was a female in general. Because
Right.
I have had that struggle, like
yeah,
you're saying.
I would think even around in this country you experienced that,
yes.
right?
Yes, there have been, one of my favorite stories is there's a gentleman that came into the shop, walked in the door, and years ago, my desk was in the shop with the mechanics. I had a desk, and then I could turn around and see everything going on in the mechanic area. And the gentleman walked in, he looked over me and spoke to my mechanic behind me, and he said, I want to talk to the boss. And my mechanic pointed back at me. And I said, how can I help you?
She's
and
right
he
there.
turned around and walked out. And I was like, Well, I didn't want to as a customer anyway, if that's the way it's
Sure.
going to be, right? But most of the time, I do have to prove myself. I do have to talk a little bit or ask a couple questions about the car.
Crazy. Like, can you imagine
Yeah, that's
walking
insane.
out of a shop because there's a woman in charge? Like, really?
It's not crazy to me. I totally get
guess.
it. I get it. I get it. I can understand why it happens.
I
but
can see it happening, but
Yes.
that's just insane. I mean, especially and you know, like you said, once you kind of get to know you,
yeah.
I mean, I would trust you with. I mean, you could build me a '69 Camaro right now from nothing and
Yes.
order everything. You know, and
Yeah, the first one we did, we laid 2 frame rails on a jig and built it all the way up. So
Wow.
yes,
She has all the parts.
I was going to say I have all the parts if you want to start on that.
right. But more so, I feel like it's male or female. I think if I was to interview someone for a position, I'm going to ask you some questions, and you got to prove to me that you know what your topic is. So that's the way I look at it. Instead of just being mad about it, I just think, well, I gotta prove myself. I gotta say that they're going to trust me with their prized possession, and they want it to become their dream, right? So you're not just going to give that to anybody, male or female
Sure.
or whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You need to prove yourself in a lot of ways in life.
I also think that there's some satisfaction at the end of that first conversation when they walk out of our shop going, wow, she knows what the heck she's talking about, and you can go, that's right.
As a matter of fact, I do.
Did you have any other questions?
How about anything else?
But the fun thing with our friend from the Middle East, I think it was cultural at the time that their culture, women weren't in business positions so much.
Right.
And within, I don't know, a couple of months, all of a sudden he's sending her like birthday cards and stuff on Facebook, and he would call and only want to talk to her.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
Because the rest of us were idiots,
And the hard part, I figured out, what he was trying to say. And, in America, when we say and we kind of, I'm not so sure, we make those noises.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he was doing. He was converting Arabic to English with ums in the middle. And I thought they were words initially. And I'm like, what in the heck? But it was ums. It was his way of converting.
Gotcha.
So when we went to Saudi Arabia, he brought his car from Dubai to exhibit in our booth. And he brought us chocolates, and we were buds, man. I was like, oh, yes, I've made it,
Wow.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
It was very rewarding to build that friendship with him.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, there's also a little bit of a story that. So when Kelle this past, a couple weeks ago was interviewed by our friends at Motor Trend, you had 2 points in there in that interview that I thought were really, really interesting and pretty important. And to Jared's point, it's like, really do people have to, prove themselves all the time? And one of them was even you as a female sometimes are perpetuating the stigma a little bit.
I'm not nice to females.
Well, I didn't say that.
Yeah, I said that. In fact, I said that in the interview. I said that there's another notable fabricator in our industry. Her name is Jessie Combs, and may she rest in peace. She's the fastest woman on 4 wheels. And she did a land speed record and died doing it. So she is idolized in our industry, and she did tremendous things for women in our industry and children in our industry. And she and I were talking one night, and we said, when we, as females, walk into an auto parts store and we see another female behind the counter, we as females go, oh, I hope this goes okay. Like, right? You all do it, but so do we. Because we're like, damn it, I know the part, I know what I need, and now I'm going to have to deal with, does it have air conditioning? Does it have 4-wheel drive? Like,
It's just wiper blades. Come
I know,
on.
right?
Yeah.
So
Right. It's engine oil.
it's their,
You don't need to know
it's
the
the
color.
company's, I'm sure it's the company's computer automated ask this question next,
Sure.
right? And maybe the person isn't an idiot, but it has ingrained in us that the auto parts are like frustrating. And I do it male or female, but we both admitted that whether, sometimes we're trying to raise up the women in the industry and be like, yeah, go girl.
Yeah.
And
then-
sometimes we're like, ugh, come on, I hope this goes right. So it's an honest admittance that we need to be nicer to each other.
So everybody does it.
Right. Yeah.
So we see Kevin going to these trips, these extravagant auto shows and stuff. Seems like all the time. And I know on the last one you got to go. We talked about it a little bit.
Yep.
Got to go is probably not the right term. You went.
He let
I
you
went.
go.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
really
no,
I
nice
booked
of
the
him.
flights.
Good
She
job.
made that happen.
So that's my question: is do you go on almost all of those trips, or half of them, or are you as involved in many of them as you were at SEMA, or?
No. In fact, so I went when Kevin works for Bonnier, which is the other automotive events that he did all summer. I went to the first one. He's on stage. He's talking to the microphone. I have nothing. The company did not hire me. There's nothing for me to do there. It's a car show, right? We didn't exhibit a car. I'm not promoting our business. I got nothing. So I went fishing.
You can take a lap of the show pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But for real, she brought the fishing pole.
I went fishing.
Nice.
So another time I traveled with Kevin to Las Vegas this summer. He was doing the SEMA Hall of Fame banquet. I went fishing at a
In the
city
desert?
park. In a city
Something a
park.
trend here.
I practiced fly fishing in a city park.
I didn't even know
awesome.
you could fish in Vegas.
In Vegas?
But what turned of that same trip in the summertime, I met another gentleman that we've known for many years in the industry, and I said, Kevin's doing all this traveling. He's coming out here and doing all these things. Is there something I can do with this industry, this organization, when I'm traveling with him that I can participate in, which has led to me joining some organizations associated with SEMA and potentially being elected to a position that, like a board type thing that can have more influence. So I'm learning about that process right now. But years ago, we traveled constantly everywhere, and I would be his cameraman or I'd be his production assistant and I'd go run and whatever. And so now, though, with my responsibility of the shop and the growth and my own family, things of my dad and my brother to take care of, my niece and nephew, it's like, I'm going to stay home, or I'm going to go fishing, or I'm going to do some work, something, and you go do the stage thing because I can't contribute. So it just depends on what the trip is.
Yeah, cool. Now, we haven't really talked about this much with Chris and Tammy, and it's not fair because she's not on to talk
where
about
is
it.
that girl?
But,
running around.
she's actually working hard.
Tammy is like
running around.
my idol, man. That woman, not only does she work here tremendously,
That's right.
she puts up with Chris.
She
And then
is
she
a
has
saint.
2 kids.
She
Like,
is a
I
saint.
swear, anybody with children has a way harder life than I do. So kudos to Tammy.
Well, is it hard to work closely with a spouse? I know, obviously Chris and Tammy do it. You and Kevin are doing it. Is it better? Are you glad that you're doing it? I mean, don't throw each other under the bus
I
here,
used
but
to get,
or is it
you
harder?
still get that question all the time.
Yeah.
Like, oh, working with your wife. And it's like, she's my wife. Like, how could,
Some people could never do it.
Never, ever do that.
No,
like,
man.
really?
Right.
You couldn't work with your wife?
Yeah.
Like, really?
That might be an indicator.
Right. Well, I mean, I understand it. Many couples cannot, I get it. But I grew up with my parents owning and operating a farm. And if my mom, she never learned how to drive the tractors, but she cooked the meals, she took care of us kids, she did our homework, she fed the animals and did all the gardening and canning, as much contribution as she could possibly do. And my dad worked a full-time job, and then he was a farmer as well, and then us kids got involved. So I grew up with spouses working together as a team forever. And I wanted that type of relationship when I grew up, based on what I saw them do and accomplish together. And so that was my goal, and to be able to be around Kevin full-time without the usual spousal frustrations was super important to me. I understand that there's a lot of people who genuinely love each other, have a beautiful marriage, but they cannot build something together.
Sure.
2 of them have to hold the hammer and really only need one. I get it. I can see that frustration. But
You're holding it wrong.
Right. We are incredibly fortunate to be able to work together. We met working on the same engine and the same car together. We've restored cars together. We've done the same task on the same part. Or in our business now is totally different jobs. We're in 2 different buildings. We ride together to work and we eat lunch together every day, and all of our meals are together and all of our travels are together. And we love it. Like, it's weird, some time goes by and we're like, I didn't get to ride to work with you for a couple days. Like,
It is weird.
How are you?
Chris
Are you
and
okay
I
with
are
it?
always saying, we're complaining about Kevin all the time.
Yeah.
And, working
is
with
that guy?
him
And
is
here
just,
you genuinely like to be with him.
Yeah,
That's just kind of weird.
I'll tell you what, man.
I think we're very, very fortunate.
I
Great.
think so too, and I think a big part of that is having a common goal.
Yeah.
And even if that goal isn't defined, like next Tuesday I want to do this, it's the general direction of where you want everything to go.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah, and that's also kind of what I was going to say is that we got to the point in our automotive shop where I was at the shop all by myself. I did everything in the shop. Tammy would work in St. Louis and then come home and do some paperwork for me at the shop, maybe help out wherever she could. On the weekends, she'd come in and work a little bit in the office. But so she was still getting some things done, but Monday through Friday was all me.
Yeah.
It got to the point where I was busy enough where it was like, I'm kind of wasting my time in the office here. I feel like I should be out there turning wrenches. Like that's what I can do and am good at, and we needed someone to help. And it's like, well, would I go hire someone that knows nothing about us and
Right.
it does you can hire someone and they can do a fine job. I'm sure, but we want someone that's gonna push forward with what we're trying to achieve,
Right.
long-term goals, and who can tell your story better than you.
Well,
or,
I think,
or your
Chris,
wife.
something maybe this is what I envision, right? If you owned this bar by yourself and Tammy worked in St. Louis still, and you came home at 2:00 in the morning, she would not understand.
No.
Right?
No.
Right? So Kevin and I, when we started our business, we were working 4 a.m. was not an uncommon thing.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah.
So can you imagine if a spouse just showed up at home at 4 a.m.?
Right.
Oh my God, I was working so hard.
Yeah.
Were you working so hard, or what the hell? Where have you been? Or in your case, I've been at the bar.
You were at the bar.
You were at the
until
bar,
midnight.
I'm sure. Blah blah blah.
Working.
Right. I'm here with the kids, and like that. Just I think when you own the company together and you can work together, you understand what the other one is doing, and that resentment goes away.
Sure.
I think one of the fun stories was when we left Southern California and I went to start our business, and we did a short 1.5 period in Chicago. We rented a house, and I was working out of the basement, and we relied on Kelle for income because she was a legal secretary, had a really great job downtown in Chicago, and she was commuting every day. And I was trying to launch a production company and get a television show off the ground, which means a ton of phone calls, a ton of paperwork, a ton of, non-committal conversations, a lot of rejection, and then, Kelle would come home and be like, hey,
Why aren't the dishes done?
what are you doing all day?
Why didn't you take out the trash? I worked all day. Why isn't my supper on the table?
You're just sitting in the basement. You could just go do the dishes. and it wasn't until we sold that house, we got the contracts, we started to get the business off the ground, and we moved here to Waterloo when we both worked together full time. And then it was a little different.
Yeah. We were both upstairs in our house in our individual offices, but I could hear and see him. And I'm like, he's like, what do you want for lunch? I'm like, I don't know. I got all this stuff to do. Can you go make something, right? And then the dishes or the things were piling up. I'm like, I don't have time for that. I got to get this work done. So then I was like, okay, I'm sorry about that whole Chicago thing. I get it.
Yep.
Yeah.
You couldn't just knock out some dishes. I mean,
Right.
What are you doing all day?
I worked all day and then I got to come home and do dishes. What? You were here all day. What is the problem?
It's the least you could do.
Right.
So
I get it.
I don't mean to derail the conversation, but you might have noticed listening. It was kind of quiet and subdued when we started the episode, and then it got crazy.
Got kind of raucous.
Yeah.
What's going on tonight, Chris?
We have the Firm Homebrew Club tonight in the basement. So, they all just kind of went down just a minute ago, and that's why it's now quieter.
People are handing things to Chris, patting him on
see
the
that. What'd you get? I
back.
think a pepper?
Looks like
think
cinnamon or something.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Yeah.
called Death Pepper. I can't
Oh,
Death
no. Oh,
We'll
my
be trying
goodness.
that at
Death
the end of the
pepper.
episode here.
I will not be.
Why don't you guys try some of this?
No.
Yeah, no.
I'm not even going to smell that.
So it was kind of crazy. Actually, it's died down a little bit again, but it was pretty raucous in here
It
for a
was.
little while.
It was.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens here in the bar.
Yeah.
Right.
So, anyway, I'm glad you made it in because I used to have to come home after recording these saying,
Right.
I was working real hard on the podcast.
Yeah.
She's like,
Now
what
you
have
can
you been
see
doing all
exactly
night?
how
Drinking
hard
the
he's working.
bourbon.
Pretty much, yeah.
Sitting around watching people. I know, it's so hard.
Now she knows.
I know.
Now she knows.
Now you know.
So, maybe we'll schedule an episode with you and Tammy because we were kind of hoping for that, but Tammy's got kids and everything else going on tonight, so that'll happen later. But
She is one hard-working woman, man.
She's
For
behind
sure.
the bar.
Well, just
as we
like
speak.
you. Yeah,
and so
I
are
mean,
you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and one of my favorite things that we end up doing every once in a while is we'll get together with you guys. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, you know this, but everyone else does not. All 7 of our listeners listeners, but
The one in Slovenia.
The one in Slovenia, yeah. So if you're listening in Slovenia, we do we'll get together for lunch with the Oestes, and so it's the four of us. We get to chat about whatever and complain at each other. And
Business
all that
ownership
stuff.
is tough sometimes.
Yeah, so I don't know. I just enjoy doing that, and I think we're similar situations. Being business owners, and so it's fun.
It's a little support network.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. Yep.
We definitely get excited when you guys call for lunch.
That's right.
Yep.
So thanks for joining us and sharing.
Well, thanks
all
for
that
having me. It
stuff.
was fun.
Of course.
Yeah.
Like I said, we talked about you a lot. I mean, we've mentioned you a couple times. And,
I mean, a whole lot.
I know. I was like, what do I got to say? Everything's been said.
well, what you have to say now is the rehash of the answer to the German word of the day.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so the German word of the day today was weltschmerz.
Right.
Weltschmerz. And let's review the answers. I believe Kelly said it's a condiment or a schmear.
Nice.
A spread, I think she said.
Yeah,
Sandwich
spread. Yeah, okay. Jared said it means deli meat.
Deli meat.
Kevin?
I'm pretty sure that's right.
Yeah, I can.
Oh, my God.
You guys took all the good answers.
Kevin said Kevin had to go with cheese spread because all the other good answers were done. So cheese spread. What it actually means is cheese spread. No.
Oh, my heart. I almost wet my pants.
I got you. No, it means world pain. Which,
world.
What? What kind of word
It's
is that
used
for
to
today?
it's used to sum up a feeling of melancholy due to unknown reasons.
Wow.
In short, sadness even when everything is going well.
So a reason to come to Stubborn
Man.
German.
Well,
Exactly.
I got to be careful here because some of the other words have been tailored towards the guest. What are you trying to say?
Yeah. What? Wait a minute.
When they fit, sometimes I do, but this one had nothing to do with the guest.
Thank goodness.
This was flip it open and point to the word.
Exactly. This I had one ready, so this is what we did.
Weltschmerz. What was it again?
Hold on. Weltschmerz.
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 Well, there you go.
I won't
So-
take it
Sadness
personal.
even when everything is going well. That's such a German thing, right? Like, everything's fine.
Now it is time to be sad.
I'm happy, except
Put more salt on it.
Well, the Stubborn German podcast preventing Weltschmerz all around the world.
that's right. Just be happy.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for joining us. And if you like this kind of thing, push that subscribe button. And you never know who's going to be our next guest because we don't know who's going to be our next guest. Chances are somebody who's local or at least willing to walk by and sit down for a few minutes. And you can also find us on the Facebook page. You've got commentary. Feel free to share those thoughts. Always happy to hear them. And for Mr. Chris Ron, Mr. Jared Chasson, and my lovely wife, our guest, Miss Kelle Oeste, I say Prost.
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 So this will be because I'm totally going to roast cue ball on the next one.
Okay.
So not this one because
Okay.
it'll be out of because
He deserves it.
this will be the one in 2 weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you hear that story?
No.
Oh, you're gonna. Well, I guess you won't.
Yeah. So, Cue Ball proposed the overselling adjective on our show as being gemütlich, which
Yeah.
is bizarre, but
Right.
it was short for Gemütlichkeit.
Right. I heard that one.
Yeah, where he indicated that he's not a listener.
Oh.
Because he said, yeah, you can tell Chris you can use that one. And I said,
Yeah, he said he's a listener, but then said,
He
"Here, go
didn't.
ahead and use this one." And Kevin's like,
we have.
we did."
Did. Yeah.
So
When I heard it, I was like, oh, he's been listening to the Stubborn podcast. 'cause where
I
else would he
appreciate
get
the
that word?
shout outs, but it was kind of funny.
It was very funny. He stepped in at that time.